This is Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome into a Wednesday edition of Prop Points here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson hanging out with you for the next hour. We're from rotowire.com. Packed show coming your way. I'll talk about some big news. A big day for the hamate bone in general, Jeff, across Major League Baseball. Some injuries we've got to keep you updated on, including Francisco Lindor and Corbin Carroll. We'll take a look at a monster NBA slate tonight. 14 games coming our way as most teams head into the All-Star break. Play a game of play it or pass it, including taking a look at Nikola Jokic with the Nuggets as heavy favorites tonight. Got the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am starting up tomorrow, taking us through the weekend. Our golf betting expert, Len Hochberg, going to join us around 1:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll talk a little fantasy baseball, Jeff, to conclude the show. We'll get Jeff's top 10 catchers for the season. Let's dive in on some of that baseball news, Jeff. Corbin Carroll breaking the hamate bone in his right hand. He will undergo surgery today. This means he's going to miss the World Baseball Classic. The bigger news for us in the baseball betting world, in the fantasy baseball world, is this, of course, calls into question his status for opening day. And we did just get an update about 10 minutes ago on Francisco Lindor dealing with a very similar injury on his hand. He was debating whether or not he would get surgery. And the news out in New York this morning is that he will indeed undergo that procedure. So that means Corbin Carroll, Francisco Lindor, and Jackson Holliday all dealing with the same injury, all on a similar timetable.
Right. In the case of both Carroll and Holliday, it happened in live batting practice yesterday, too. So that was another thing that we're looking at is like, okay, this is the first contact. Other people, it's first intake, and they're getting their exams, their physicals, and it's discovered in other situations. Let's start with Carroll. The Arizona Diamondbacks, their win total at the DraftKings Sportsbook is 79.5. I do see it at 80.5, but heavily juiced to the under elsewhere there. I was already a little low. We were talking win totals yesterday. I didn't get a chance to talk Diamondbacks because I talked too much, and so we didn't get to the Diamondbacks. But they're another one of my unders for this year because of their pitching. They lost to Zach Gallen. They did get Merrill Kelly back. Their bullpen is in shambles. And taking away Carroll, if he's not ready for the start of the season, if he misses, say, 2 weeks of the regular season, that would probably push it even a little bit lower for me. They're already without Lourdes Gurriel out in left field for half the season as well. I think this is a kind of a transitional year for the Diamondbacks. They do have some young talent that they're working their way into playing time. Most notably, Jordan Lawler is a guy I'm looking at there as a guy that's going to be stepping in. He's been a forever prospect, but he's really young still. This is a tough spot because Carroll's clearly their best player. Mid first rounder. If I'm drafting today, I'm probably waiting till mid to late second round now. We talked about this a little bit on SiriusXM just before our show here, that Jackson Chourio versus Corbin Carroll is probably the line where I draw it, like around 22, 24 overall. I think I take Chourio ahead of Carroll at this point in time. Probably anybody else coming up after Carroll, I'm probably taking Carroll still. So that's where I'm drawing that line. But because here's the thing, it's not going to affect his legs. That shouldn't change his stolen base ability, but the power and something that was slow to develop last year. Remember, Carroll had a tough first half last season for picking that back up again. This is something to watch for because sometimes hamate bones do drag on a player's power when they come back from an injury like that.
Yeah, that's almost the bigger concern for me is, given this timetable, 6 weeks is what we're looking at. We are exactly 6 weeks away from opening night in Major League Baseball. I think it's realistic that Carroll and or Lindor could push to return for the opener, but it's a question of, are they going to be at full strength, at full effectiveness? When you're dealing with a hand injury, you're having surgery on that hand, you're not going to be able to swing a bat. You're going to lose strength. And that is something that I would be a little bit concerned about as far as how those guys end up coming out of the gate. I know you're a little bit lower on Arizona, as you mentioned, on the win total. What does this potentially mean for the New York Mets? Again, hopefully it's not something that impacts, beyond the first two or 3 weeks of the regular season. But let's say Lindor does miss some time to begin the year. Is there opportunity elsewhere for that Mets team?
Yeah. The thing is, the Mets are optimistic, quote unquote, that Lindor will be ready for the start of the regular season. He was already nixed from the WBC for insurance reasons. So I thought that was interesting there. But hey, they've got Bo Bichette on the roster. He's moving to third base. Will the Mets consider having him open at short, and that allows them to play someone like Brett Beatty? I don't know. I think that's an interesting conversation. Or do they want to commit to having, Bichette be only third base. We've seen that in other situations there where, hey, okay, no, we are committed to this position change. We're not going to change that at all. So we'll see. Other options at shortstop for the Mets. Remember, they traded away Luis Angel Acuna in the trade for Luis Robert. So Vidal Brujan is on the roster. Ronnie Mauricio. This was once a big-time prospect, folks. Mauricio is still interesting to me. I know he struggled a little bit last year. He had 6 plate appearances in September. They didn't even give him that much of that chance. Remember that the Mets season was circling down the drain. They're desperate. They were playing the veterans a little bit more. Mauricio missed all of 2024 with an injury, though. He missed a good chunk of last year with an injury. This is a time when he's going to be fully healthy going into spring training. I suspect you're going to see Mauricio play a ton in spring training to see if he can hack it. I think the Mets would prefer if Bichette remain at third base because let's face it, Lindor is going to come back at some point in time. Bichette is going to have to remain at third. I think they prefer to stick with that position change. So watch for Mauricio. He might be a sneaky guy early on in the season to play a little bit more, especially if they ease Lindor back in. If they play him maybe 5 times out of 6 times out of 7, they give him that extra day of rest.
Elsewhere in the NL East, Jeff, we got some news on Spencer Schwellenbach. He is placed on the 60-day IL, dealing with some inflammation in his elbow. Made that move yesterday. That comes, right ahead of the first pitcher and catchers workout for the Atlanta Braves. Braves are saying, they think he avoided a serious injury to the UCL. Only time will tell. What does this mean for Schwellenbach? Is he somebody you're touching whatsoever in fantasy?
I don't think until after pick 300. You take a stab at him then, fine. He's on your reserve roster. If you have IL spots, all the better. If you don't have IL spots, you're tying up that spot for at least 3 months of the season. And we don't know if Schwellenbach will hold to that schedule. There was a report earlier this morning from Mark Bowman of MLB.com that says that Schwellenbach could require arthroscopic surgery to remove some bone spurs from his elbow. That's what they're talking about is the reason for putting him on the 60-day IL. It's noteworthy to me, Nick, that they put him on the 60-day IL right away. It wasn't like, okay, he's going to miss some time. He's out indefinitely. No, 60-day IL right away. Opens up the 40-man roster spot. That probably had a little bit of a driver to that situation as well. But keep in mind, Schwellenbach had a fractured elbow last year in June and missed the end of the season. That has to weigh on this as well. Is this connected to all of that? You still don't know if he's out of the woods in terms of, a future ligament surgery, because usually those things are related. So, yeah, I'm probably staying away from Schwellenbach unless he goes really, really cheaply.
Fantasy baseball draft season heating up right around the corner. Are you still using your buddy's gut instinct as a betting strategy? Come on. You deserve better. RotoWire gives you the real tools the pros use: rankings, projections, breaking news updates, data that never sleeps. Whether you're setting your fantasy lineups, making picks, or placing bets, RotoWire's award-winning insights give you a real edge this season. Get started today over at RotoWire.com. Just use our promo code VSIN, VSIN. Put that in over at RotoWire. 15% off anything we offer. All right, Jeff, got to talk a little bit about last night's NBA slate. We got 14 games tonight, and we'll talk about some of our favorite props coming up next. But just 4 games on Tuesday night. We did see your Indiana Pacers pull off a huge upset as a double-digit dog, winning outright in overtime at Madison Square Garden. The Rockets took care of business against a shorthanded Clippers team. The Suns, as we expected, beat the Dallas Mavericks. A colossal beatdown in LA last night, a game that we broke down on the show. At that point, we had some line movement. We had a feeling Luka Doncic wouldn't play. Lakers pulled the rug out on us. Not only did they sit Luka, they sit LeBron, they sit Marcus Smart, DeAndre Ayton, Austin Reeves. Just a total punt game for the LA Lakers, and turned into an incredible performance by Victor Wembanyama. Became the only player in NBA history to record at least 40 points and 12 boards in 26 or fewer minutes. Spurs put up 47 in the first quarter, 84 in the first half. Watching that game last night, Jeff, because I'm an NBA sicko, it felt like an all-star game, honestly, at times. Lakers are turning it over. De'Aaron Fox is passing up open layups to throw it off the backboard to Victor Wembanyama. It was one of those games where, you wonder, man, if this had been a little bit more competitive, if the Spurs had kept their foot on the gas, what kind of numbers could Victor Wembanyama have put up?
Exactly. He didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. There was no intensity to this game after the first quarter. I, too, was watching a decent amount of that because, hey, it was the only live NBA game at that point in time, too. Caught that from the second quarter on. Unfortunately, I missed the first quarter, which is the only competitive part of the game for about 12 seconds. The Lakers really did pull the rug on us here. They've got one more game coming up before the break, though, too. I kind of figured this is the second half of the back-to-back. You already didn't have Luka. But, yeah, no Reeves, no James. That made it really tough as well there. Hey, Spurs are only 3.5 back of Oklahoma City there, too. They are taking care of business. They're not afraid of Oklahoma City. They beat them head-to-head a couple of times already, including in the tournament. So I think that's going to be an interesting look at going forward there, positioning themselves for a playoff run.
No question. And I think what's interesting about that head-to-head with OKC is obviously the Spurs have had the advantage so far in the regular season and in the in-season tournament. I don't think either team is scared of the other. Like OKC has made some comments of, they've had the upper hand in some of these matchups. I think the Thunder would welcome that matchup once again in the playoffs. I think, like you said, the Spurs have no fear whatsoever of this OKC team. They might be the only team in the NBA that can say that, even with the Thunder slowing down over the last month or so. One more thing I want to point out on Victor Wembanyama, by the way, Jeff, is I think the three-point shooting has gone a little bit under the radar. We know about the raw scoring, the rebounding, the shot blocking every night. Victor Wembanyama is shooting 37% from three on the year. His jump shot looks like Tracy McGrady's jump shot to me. This is not how a 7'6" guy should be shooting the basketball. The smoothness is unbelievable. He scaled up the volume since coming back from injury. I mean, we're talking 37% on 6 or 7 attempts per game. So incredible performance from Victor Wembanyama last night. We're going to talk some NBA props for tonight's 14-game slate when we come back. We'll dive in on all those on the other side. This is Prop Points here on VSiN.
You're here because you want an edge. That's what separates listeners from winners. But let's be real, mindset alone doesn't get bets home. Pros win because they've got the tools, the data, and the discipline. And now so can you. VSiN Pro gives you access to the same real-time insights the sharps use. No secrets, no fluff, just actionable info that moves markets. Tap the link and see why serious bettors are turning knowledge into profit with VSiN Pro.
If you thought the Snack Wrap was good before, wait until you get your hands on the all-new Hot Honey Snack Wrap. All the sweetness and heat you can handle, just one bite will have you falling in love all over again. Juicy, sweet, and now with a little kick to bring it all together. If they ask who we do it for, it's for you. So look no further. Hot Honey Sauce is here.
You're watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to Prop Points. Jeff Erickson here with Nick Whalen. You've been pining for this all offseason. It's time. It's play it or pass it time, where our intrepid producer, Michael Cohen, provides a series of NBA props, and Nick decides whether to play it or pass it. Make sure you go to VSiN.com/NBA props to see all the Opta AI projections they have for all the player props for each NBA game. We're using those as part of the context for our segment here. Before we jump into play it or pass it, though, Nick, the big NBA news. We have a ton of suspensions coming from the Pistons Hornets fight. Isaiah Stewart, 7 games. Miles Bridges, 4 games. Moussa Diabate, 4 games. And Jalen Duren, 2 games. Your reaction?
My reaction is this seems about right. And we knew those would be coming down at some point today. The NBA wasn't going to let those guys play tonight without levying suspensions. And look, 7 games might feel a little bit heavy for Isaiah Stewart. And with the All-Star break, I mean, that means he won't be back eligible until next month. But you have to consider 2 things when it comes to Stewart. One, he is a repeat offender. This is not the first time that we've had an incident like this with Isaiah Stewart. And 2, he actually left the bench to join this fight. He was not on the court when this happened, unlike the other guys involved. So the penalty a little bit more severe for Isaiah Stewart. Like you said, 4 games for Miles Bridges, 4 for Diabate, and then 2 for Jalen Duren. You never love to see a fight in an NBA game for this reason, Jeff. With that said, like to see the fellas mixing it up, right? You know, love a fight when you have the initial scuffle and then the camera pans and there's like 2 separate, scuffles going on elsewhere on the court. So, you know, things start to get a little bit testy in the association as we get closer to the All-Star break.
Indeed. And it wasn't, it was a real fight. It wasn't one of those hold me back sort of situations. So, that's why we see such heavy penalties. The Hornets play the Hawks tonight. Does that open the door for an opportunity for like someone like Con Knuppel? Con Knuppel over 20.5 points, minus 17. Play it or pass it.
Yeah, it's interesting that this line has not moved at all since the suspensions were announced. So that was already baked in. You're not getting any sort of advantage there. Right. I like this one. I like this one overall. Our guy Michael Cohen is off to a hot start for this season with play it or pass it. It is worth noting, by the way, that if the Hornets win this game tonight, they will cash their over 25.5 preseason win total. Just need to go 1-27 the rest of the season. So feeling pretty good about that one. Shout out to our guy Kelly Bidlin, who was all over that from day one. When you look at the recent games for Con Knuppel, he's gone over this number only 3 times in the last 10, but he's averaging 18.5 points per game in that span. So he's in this range just about every night, still shooting super efficiently, but the Hornets are getting more consistent production, just guys being on the court more often in terms of LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges. With Bridges out, though, if we use our tools over at RotoWire, take Bridges off the court, put Con Knuppel on. Knuppel does get a slight bump in usage, about 3.5 percentage points, averages about 2 more points per 36 minutes. On the Atlanta side of things, you have some key players questionable, including Dyson Daniels, who is by far their best defender, Jalen Johnson as well. They sat out on Monday. They gave up 138 points to the Minnesota Timberwolves. This should be a big pace-up spot for the Hornets, regardless of who's out there for Atlanta. So with no Miles Bridges, even though Con Knuppel is still technically the third option, we'll play this one at over 20.5.
All right, let's move on to the next game, Bucks at Magic. We've got a Paolo Banchero prop. Paolo Banchero over 8.5 rebounds. Play it or pass it.
Yeah, this is a good line. It's a good line. It's at plus money for a reason. We have a rematch from a game that we saw earlier this week, and this Bucks team is giving up a ton of rebounds of late without Giannis Antetokounmpo. Their total rebound percentage is about league average, but they are missing a ton of shots. They're playing with a decent amount of pace, so there are a ton of rebound opportunities when you go up against the Milwaukee Bucks. Ironically, we saw Bobby Portis call out the team after Monday's game, which was a loss to this Orlando Magic team for not rebounding. Bobby Portis had 0 rebounds in that game. So, throwing stones a little bit. But Banchero finished that game with only 11 points and 9 boards in 33 minutes. It's been a very weird season for Banchero. He's turned into kind of a divisive character as far as, is he really a number one option going forward? The Magic have, of course, struggled without Franz Wagner. Overall, though, he's gone over this number in 5 of his last 8. He has 3 double-digit rebound games in that span. So at plus money, I think we get a better effort tonight offensively from the Milwaukee Bucks. I think the minutes will be there for Banchero. We'll play this one as well.
All right. Very good. 14 game slate. Lots of games to choose from here. We're going to go Knicks 76ers. Knicks went to overtime last night, losing to the Pacers, a devastating win for the Pacers, if you know what I mean. But I want to talk a little on the Knicks side of things. Jalen Brunson, 3-pointers made. Our line here is over 2.5 3-pointers made, minus 128. Play it or pass it, Nick Whalen.
This is a really tough one for me, and this is one that I would wait on, especially if you're playing at an exchange where if you take the over on a player and he doesn't play, it counts as a loss because it is the second night of a back-to-back for the Knicks. They of course lost in overtime to the Pacers last night, and this takes them into the All-Star break. But if we're assuming Brunson will be out there, which I think there's a good chance that he will, but I would just keep an eye on that with it being a back-to-back. He went for 40 points on 31 shots last night, 4 of 14 from beyond the arc. These last 4 games, he's taken 14, 8, 8, and 12 3-pointers. He's 13 of 42 from 3, so only shooting about 31%, but he's taking plenty of late. I'd like to get an update on OG Anunoby. We'll see if the Knicks are cautious with him heading into the All-Star break. He didn't play last night. You look at 3 previous matchups against the Philadelphia 76ers. Brunson has gone 1 of 7, 2 of 4, and 6 of 12 from 3. So he's gone under in 2 of 3. I'm going to split the difference here. Say it's more of a wait and see for me on OG Anunoby. With Anunoby on the floor, Brunson's usage, off the floor, Brunson's usage does skyrocket up to 34%. He takes 9 threes per 36 with Anunoby off. Those numbers are dramatically different with Anunoby on. So as of right now, Jeff, if we have to make a split second decision, I'm going to pass on Jalen Brunson over 2.5 made threes.
All right. Before we get to our next prop, real quick, football season may be wrapped up, but the betting calendar is just heating up, and VSiN Pro has you covered. With March Madness right around the corner and the MLB season fast approaching, now's the perfect time to bet smarter with VSiN Pro. Sign up today and get daily best bets from VSiN hosts and guests, real-time DraftKings and Circa betting splits, AI-powered prop tools and matchup analysis, 24/7 video and full show replays on the VSiN Watch app, plus all our betting guides, including our MLB betting guide dropping February 17th. Get started today for just $9.99 or save 50% with an annual subscription. Don't miss the best stretch of the betting year. Visit VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. The Clippers, trying to rebuild their roster here, trying to get younger. They're at the Rockets tonight. Talk a little Alperen Sengun. Over 5.5 assists, -135. Nick, play it or pass it?
So this is another spot where we have two teams playing for the second time this week. And in fact, the second time in 2 nights. A lot of those situations this week before the All-Star break. Rockets took care of business against the Clippers in a predictably low-scoring game last night. That was a 102-95 win for Houston. What worries me is some blowout potential here. I know the Rockets haven't been playing all that well. It would not surprise me whatsoever if we see Kawhi Leonard specifically sit out on the back-to-back tonight heading into the All-Star break. He has been playing back-to-backs. He's played a lot more than most of us expected so far this season, but I think this is a spot where it would make sense to potentially pull back and give him an extra couple days of rest. So last night, 35 minutes for Sengun, finished with 5 assists. Houston did shoot it pretty well. They went 14 of 28 from 3, so there were plenty of assist opportunities. You look at his last 5 games, he's had 11, 5, 3, 5, and 7 assists in those, so a little bit of an up-and-down performance. Both of these teams, regardless of Kawhi's status, they play slowly. Both of them are near the top of the league in terms of limiting opponent assists. And with this number creeping up now to 9.5 in favor of the Rockets, I do worry a little bit about the blowout potential. I think it's a fair number, but at -135, I'm going to pass.
All right, fair enough. Let's get to our final player to pass it here. We got the Nuggets hosting the Grizzlies. And again, another situation here where you've got a contending team hosting a team that is clearly not contending after making trades. We're going to look at the star of the Nuggets, star of the league, Nikola Jokic. His point prop here is at 26.5. Do you go over 26.5 points at -108? Play it or pass it?
So the Nuggets are 13.5 point favorites at home in this game over I wouldn't quite say tanking Grizzlies team. They're not resting guys outright outside of Ja Morant too. I don't know if we see him in a Grizzlies uniform again this year, but they have moved to what I would call a very egalitarian rotation. Their last game on Monday against Golden State, we had 10 players play at least 20 minutes. So they're not just outright tanking, like some other teams are. Looking at Utah Jazz, but they're finding ways to ensure that those losses start to stack up. Jokic, since returning from injury, Jeff, has only gone over this number twice. He's been a little bit more of a distributor or rebounder. He is, somewhat of a reluctant scorer. And it would be an understatement tonight to say that Memphis has no one to guard Nikola Jokic. So this should be an excellent spot for him on paper. Memphis is bottom 5 in points in the paint allowed. They're allowing the second most points. They're 29th in defense. They're dead last in defensive rebound percentage over the last 10 games. So a lot of key indicators here would say this is a spot for Jokic. But I really like the Nuggets to take care of business tonight. I think this is another one, much like Sengun, where I worry about the blowout. So I'm going to pass on the over 26.5 points for Jokic.
All right, that's a pass it there. We're shifting the conversation over to golf. It's the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. We got Len Hochberg joining us next to preview that. This is Prop Points.
You're watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Prop Points here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson, back with you. The conversation over to the PGA Tour. We have the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am starting up tomorrow, taking us through the weekend, and going to head out to the Progressive guest line, bring on our good pal, old friend of the show, Len Hochberg, our golf betting and DFS expert over at rotowire.com. You can find all of Len's work, of course, at RotoWire. Check him out on Twitter at Len Hochberg. Len, welcome in. Of course, a lot that we want to cover with you as we look ahead to Pebble Beach. And believe it or not, we have Scottie Scheffler in the field. That means he is a heavy favorite to win the tournament, currently 3-1 at DraftKings. And for the first time in 6 months, we have both Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy in a field. Rory winning this tournament in 2025. Len, pretty easily the best field we've had in any event so far this season. 43 of the top 50 in the official World Golf rankings in the field this weekend.
Yeah, and great to be with you guys. And we should be seeing this come fast and furious now with the better players in the better fields. This is the first of 8 signature events. There will be one this week. There will be one next week. And then, I don't even think it's too soon to say this is sort of the ramp up to the Masters, now just 2 months away. So this is going to happen a lot. And it is great to see Scheffler and McIlroy squaring off for the first time in a tournament since the Tour Championship. There was also, of course, the Ryder Cup, but I don't know if Scottie Scheffler wants that one to count.
Exactly. That's the last time we saw Rory stateside. Before that, it was the Tour Championship. He's been playing overseas. He's playing all over. He's played in India. He's played in Australia. He likes the Opens. This is his first time back on the PGA Tour. He is the defending champ here. Getting him at a decent 14-1 price, though. Any interest in him?
It's really confounding because he's not Scottie Scheffler, but he's still Rory McIlroy, and he still could win any time out. I wouldn't have thought this was a good fit for him, and I didn't last year, and then he won, and it's still a little bit hard to grab around a Rory McIlroy and think this is a great fit for him. So many things went well for him. He drove the ball really far, but also really straight, and he putted very well. That's always one of the variables with his game. So I'm going to sort of, do it again and say he wouldn't be on my short list this week.
Len, I want to get your thoughts on Tommy Fleetwood, defending FedEx Cup champion. He'll make his debut this week as well. Did play in Dubai a few weeks ago. But what do you make of his odds to win the tournament at 25-1?
Yeah, he's just a completely different player. Since he's broken through toward the end of last season, he hasn't played this tournament too much. We talked on the radio side, and I'll do it quickly here, how experience matters so much here. There's so much going on, not only from the Pro-Am format to the weather. It's just not your traditional PGA Tour event, and it's not for everybody. And Fleetwood has been here a couple of times. He's done okay. You would think this would be a good course for him, but I'm still looking to, at least at the very top, looking for guys who might have a little bit more experience playing this tournament. Traditionally, guys who played this tournament a lot have had an advantage over the guys who haven't.
This is obviously a unique tournament, unique pair of courses. It's not just Pebble. It's also Spyglass. For the first 2 days that you get one or the other, we have a Pro-Am the first 2 days. At least it's not all 4 days like it used to be. What should we look for here? It's a no-cut tournament, 80 players. What's the profile of a guy that could win this tournament?
Well, this is a U.S. Open course, first and foremost. The U.S. Open is coming here next year. So that means you pretty much need every club in your bag. It's only $6,900. Driver may be a little bit less emphasized, although we saw McIlroy use driver and do it greatly last year. But other than that, you will need to, get the ball in the fairway. You will need to be accurate with your irons. There won't be long iron shots. A focus on 125 to 150 this week is very short, but the greens are tiny, only 3,500 square feet on average. So if you miss, and more greens will be missed under that scenario, that brings scrambling into play. And I'm just mentioning every different facet of the game because that's what it takes to play well at Pebble Beach.
We're chatting with our friend Len Hochberg, our golf betting and DFS expert over at rotowire.com, joining us on the Progressive Guest Line. Len, before we get into some of the individual players you like this weekend, like Jeff said, this is a no-cut event. So how does that impact your overall strategy when you're throwing together a DFS lineup?
I think anytime there's that, and also that there's a smaller field, it just lends itself to more risk, whether you're playing DFS or playing a placement in the betting market or even in an outright. You will guarantee to being in all 4 rounds. You could be far behind at the midway point, but you can get hot on the weekend. and you don't have to pass that many guys. So in DFS, if you want to play a Scotty Scheffler, I would certainly not discourage you from doing that. That certainly is one possible strategy. And otherwise, you can look for some guys who are kind of far down the board and maybe play a top 20 or something. And the odds aren't as great with only 80-man field. It's not a 156, but it definitely lends itself to a lot of different opportunities.
Chris Gotterup has already won 2 tournaments on the tour this year. After winning the Scottish, finishing third in the Open Championship, he's still down at 30-1 for this week. Top 10, he's plus 280, along with a lot of other, mid-tier guys here. Can he capitalize? I know he didn't even get to play Pebble last year, wasn't even qualified for a signature event. It's been a meteoric rise since then. What are his chances of competing this week?
Yeah, we keep following up from earlier about experience mattering a whole lot here. He does not have it. There are also some parts of his game, and it's hard to pick apart anyone's game when they're number 5 in the world, but he is not the most accurate driver. He really goes and grips and rips it, and that works in a lot of places. I don't know if it would work here. I think he would have to take his foot off the gas a little bit on the tee and sacrifice some distance for accuracy. We'll see if he does that. He's also not the best putter. He's had some great putting weeks. He's had some very bad putting weeks. He's had some bad putting rounds and good putting rounds within a tournament. I'm a little surprised he's winning the way he's winning. But, if you hit the right shot at the right time, that sort of neutralizes a lot of other things. But he's not on my list this week, primarily because of the lack of experience at Pebble Beach.
Our golf expert Len Hochberg joining us on the Progressive Guest line here on Prop Points. Len, I want to ask you about Jake Knapp, who is priced in the 7,000s if you're playing DFS this weekend on DraftKings, but he is 38-1 to win the tournament. Other golfers in that price range in the DFS world, we're looking at anywhere from 60 to 85-1 to win this thing. Is there an opportunity here with that price not necessarily matching up with the odds to win?
Yeah, that's a good thing to look at, Nick. And I do that too. I look at the DFS price. I look at the odds. I look to compare the golfer to both of those and see if there's anything that seems amiss, and also comparing golfers to one another. Yeah, he is a lot lower price than a lot shorter odds than a lot of other guys. He's had an incredible start to the season. He hasn't really contended for a title, but he's finished 11th, 5th, and 8th. Pretty darn good. Top 20 on tour in strokes gained off the tee, tee to green, and putting. There is a lot to like here. It's just really hard for these guys a little bit down the line to win these signature events. We really expect, the top guys. Scotty Scheffler's won about 25% of them, Rory, a couple of other guys. But, maybe Jake Knapp is going to really break through at some point. I don't think he can win. You could play him, at a top 10 or a top 20 and maybe dip your toe in the Jake Knapp field that way. But I'd be surprised if he won, but it would not surprise me to see him finish in the top 10.
We're talking with RotoWire's Len Hochberg. Len, about a minute left. If we're trying to fit in Scotty Scheffler, you need to use some $6,000 golfers, but it's a no-cut event. So they're there for the taking. Which ones do you like to be the Scotty fitters?
Yeah, there are 2 guys, and you probably have to get some low 7,000s, but there are 2 guys in the 6,000s I like. Jacob Bridgman, we've talked about him on the radio side for a couple of weeks now. He was 4th at the Sony, 13th at the Amex, 18th last week at Phoenix, all different courses. He's delivering. He's 6th on tour in putting. That is always just a nice little feather in your cap to have in your back pocket, or whatever I'm trying to say here, that if you can just start to make some putts, you're in great shape. Tom Hoge at 6,500. He's a former winner here. He comes back, and even in the signature events, and plays well. He's obviously somebody comfortable in this quirky setup.
Len, excellent stuff as always, man. Looking forward to having you as a regular here on Prop Points throughout the PGA season. You can check out all of Len's work, his detailed breakdowns for DFS and betting purposes over at rotowire.com, and give him a follow on Twitter at Len Hochberg. We're going to shift the conversation over to baseball when we come back. Get Jeff Ericsson's top 10 catchers in fantasy baseball this year. We'll talk about that next. This is Prop Points.
They put hot honey sauce on the snack wrap? McDonald's outdid themselves again. The classic snack wrap we all know and love, paired with the sweet heat of hot honey sauce? Just what we needed to make it even more perfect. You know the drill. So go to McDonald's and try it today.
You're watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Nick Whale and Jeff Erickson back with you. It's Prop Points here on the Sports Betting Network, taking you up to the top of the hour. Make sure you keep it locked here on VSiN. Prop Points, Money Moves. We are Prop Points. Money Moves with Mark Malusis and Ben Stevens coming your way next. That starts up at 2 p.m. Eastern. Stormy Bonatoni, JVT on Follow the Money today. That's coming your way at 4. VSiN Primetime, of course, starting up at 7 p.m. Eastern. Jeff, we want to finish out the show talking a little baseball with an eye on fantasy, a lot of fantasy drafts. I know you have some big ones coming up in these next few weeks, and want to hone in on the catching position. Talk a little bit about not only your top players at the position, but just the state of catcher overall, what we're seeing in terms of ADP, what we're seeing in terms of tiers. I know it's a deeper position than it's been in years past, but I want to start at the top with Cal Raleigh, Jeff. The gap between Cal Raleigh and the rest of the field at catcher, is this as big as you've seen in recent memory?
It's a little bigger. It is. I've seen it, where it's been like sometimes 2 rounds difference between catcher 1 and catcher 2. We're about 3 rounds here this year. And that's because the state of the catcher pool is better than it's been in a long time. I think there are about 20 playable fantasy catchers, and you don't usually get that deep. You usually have somewhere between, 10 to 15 and, 3 or 4 more that, I'm okay with. Just as one point of an example, I was doing a little exercise for our podcast yesterday where we were only drafting players outside the top 300 in ADP. 23 catchers have been drafted before that in the RotoWire Online Championship, and all of them have been drafted in every single one of those drafts, meaning that there's a solid number of catchers there. There are a lot of emerging young catchers that don't make our top 10 that are very interesting as well. And yet Raleigh does stand apart. I mean, obviously he was an MVP candidate last year, monstrous home run total, monstrous number of games played, 159 games played, most of those behind the plate, but he does DH at times. That's one of the advantages that Raleigh brings over the crowd is he's getting all those extra plate appearances that a lot of the other catchers are not. Do I expect some regression? Absolutely. Both in terms of batting average, in terms of the stolen bases for sure. And even some of the power. You look at our projection, you look at most of the projection systems out there, they have him right around 40 home runs. So it's a very good season. It's an amazing season. You can get, by the way, if you want to bet on a repeat of 50 plus homers, you can get it at plus 330 over at DraftKings. AL MVP, he's still one of the leaders at plus 850, still far behind Judge, far behind, compared to that to Shohei in the NL where it's even crazier of a gap, but still. I still think he's the number 1 catcher with a bullet. I think that gap might be a little closer than where the ADP stands.
Yeah, got to have Cal Raleigh at number 1. That feels like a free space, but it does open up a little bit after that, Jeff. So the next 3 catchers on your list, William Contreras in Milwaukee, Shea Langoliers with the Athletics, and then Ben Rice of the New York Yankees. These guys virtually identical in terms of ADP, anywhere between 49 and 52, which, tells us, you're looking at a 4th or 5th round price tag. Is the gap for you between these 3 players as tight as the ADP would imply?
Yes, it is. The ordering may be different. I have Contreras 2nd, but you put him 3rd, you put him 4th in that tier. I wouldn't argue with that too vociferously. And in fact, I want to have. I think if you're taking a catcher in this little range, I might spread it around a little bit. If my draft strategy is to make sure I get one of the elite catchers, I may get 1 share of Contreras, 1 share of Langoliers, 1 share of Rice. Rice is the one I'm most skeptical about, but he's the one that's the trendiest. He's the one that's going the earliest of the 3. And in some leagues, I've seen him go as early as the 2nd round. As for Contreras, I want to talk on the merits with him a little bit. Last year, he played through a finger injury that sapped a lot of his power. The Brewers obviously were going through a big run. They didn't want to take him out of the lineup. He's an important part of that middle of the lineup. And this is a team that's still going to score a lot of runs. Contreras' counting stats will be pretty strong as far as that goes. I wanted to see how much the power comes back with a full offseason and recovery. him being able to have a little bit more grip strength. The problem with this whole line of analysis is that catchers get hurt. That's what they do. This is the type of injury catchers get all the time. It doesn't just apply to Contreras. It applies to Cal Raleigh as well as all the other full-time catchers. That's why one of the reasons why Bryce is so popular is because he's going to spend a lot of his time at first base. Whereas all these other catchers mostly are spending their playing time behind the plate. You're just hoping that if you have Bryce in a long-term league, that he gets his 20 games for 2027 as well. But that's one of the things that, it makes him attractive is it leads to more playing time, less chance of getting hurt.
So obviously a lot to like about Shea Langoliers, Jeff, who you have number 3 in your catcher rankings. How much of an advantage is it for him playing half of his games in a AAA ballpark in Sacramento?
Yep. Quite a bit of difference there, especially compared to Oakland, where he used to play, where, a lot of fly balls go to die there. You take it farther inland, whether it's Sacramento or next year, Vegas is minor league ballpark too, is the place where he's going to be playing. So he's going to benefit from that for a while. You look at his splits last year, 912 OPS at home, 19 of his 31 homers were at home, 580 slug at home. So you can see that he definitely did benefit from playing there, and he gets to do that again this year. I expect more of the same. They didn't make any sort of adjustments to the ballpark, unlike, say, Kansas City, where they're actually moving them in. There'll be some year-to-year variance. I expect as it heats up again, though, I expect the ball to fly out of that ballpark.
Talking Jeff Erickson's top 10 fantasy baseball catchers for this season. Jeff, you have Hunter Goodman of the Colorado Rockies coming in at number 5. He's almost on an island, a little bit closer to that tier 2, but some separation between Goodman and then that next tier of catchers. He's the only Colorado Rocky, by the way, going in the top 150 in these competitive fantasy baseball leagues over at the NFBC. After Goodman, we get into Drake Baldwin, the reigning NL Rookie of the Year, one of the few bright spots for the Atlanta Braves last season.
Yeah, he was. The risk factor with Baldwin is twofold. One, second time around the league, maybe there's a better scouting report. And two, they have more competition for him this year. Jonah Heim signed with this team in the offseason. Sean Murphy, keep in mind, he's hurt again. Murphy's coming back from that right hip labral tear, won't be coming back until May. So that's why they went out and signed Heim. So that way, Baldwin has someone that can give him some rest. Baldwin did get some time at DH, however, though. So like Raleigh, like a couple of these other strong hitting catchers, he'll get some time. Keep in mind, no Marcell Ozuna on the Atlanta Braves this year. DH is not tied up for this team. That gives him a little bit more of a pathway to playing time than he might have had last year. So that's one, and he played 144 games as it was last year too. So that's one of the things that does work in his favor. You might see like Jurickson Profar get fewer reps in the outfield, play some more at DH. That's the pathway there, especially if we get a full season of Ronald Acuna. We'll see about that, but Baldwin still should be a fairly safe fantasy investment.
All right, I want to hit one more player specifically on your list, Jeff, before we hand out some best bets for the night. So Baldwin comes in at 6, Sal Perez entering his age 36 season at 7, Will Smith at 8, Agustin Ramirez of the Miami Marlins, ADP just outside of the top 80, had a great rookie season, did hit only 231, but 21 homers, 67 RBI, 55 extra base hits, and 16 steals. How sustainable is the running specifically for Ramirez?
I think the answer to that question is how much of his time is spent behind the plate versus how much is he going to be a DH? Because I think you're going to see him be behind the plate less and less frequently because his defense isn't very strong. Opposing runners were almost perfect against him last year. And in fact, that's something we're going to be looking for during the course of the regular season. Anytime we get early lineups out and you see that he's behind the plate, maybe play around with some stolen base props for the guys going up against him. But the speed is legit. He, at Double-A in 2024, he had 13 of 14 stolen base attempts. He's a legitimately good athlete. Playing time is his risk because his defense is so poor.
There we have it. Jeff Erickson's top 10 fantasy catchers for this season. You can find all of our rankings, all of our fantasy tools, of course, over at rotowire.com. Just put in that code VSIN for 15% off. Jeff, it's that time. Best bets of the night. I got some NBA props ready to go. I know you're looking at a baseball win total. Yeah,
that's right. Because we didn't finish a chance to talk about the Diamondbacks yesterday. I am on the under for the Diamondbacks in their 79.5 wins. It's some places it's a little bit more juice to the under at DraftKings. So you can still find it at -110. the Corbin Carroll news today might move that needle pretty. So get that in quickly if you feel that way. I look at the pitching on this team. I think it's really watered down. Zach Gallen is gone. Not that Zach Gallen was especially good, but I don't think they have a true ace. They probably won't get Corbin Burns back until late in the season, if at all. Their bullpen's in shambles. They haven't signed a closer. One of their possible closers, Ryan Salfrank, is out for the season already. Under Diamondback 79.5.
All right. I'm, of course, going to the NBA tonight. We got 28 teams in action. Give me Jarrett Allen over 25.5 points plus boards. 65 minutes so far, Jeff. He's played alongside James Harden, seen a huge jump in scoring. Wizards are an ideal matchup tonight. Terrible defense, terrible rebounding team. They allow a ton of points in the paint. Only concern here, of course, is a blowout. The Cavs are 17.5-point home favorites, but Jarrett Allen has been a revelation since Evan Mobley went out. I think this is a number he could go over early in the second half. That's going to do it for the Wednesday edition of Prop Points here on the Sports Betting Network. Keep it locked right here on VSiN Money Moves. Mark Malusis, Ben Stevens coming your way next.
They put hot honey sauce on the snack wrap? McDonald's outdid themselves again. The classic snack wrap we all know and love, paired with the sweet heat of hot honey sauce? Just what we needed to make it even more perfect. You know the drill. So go to McDonald's and try it today.